Happy Sunday, April 27th. This is the last chapter of Leviticus. So tomorrow we'll start on Numbers. So the Numbers matching the day is over after today. I think it's cool that it lasted. It's kind of one of those things that I think is cool, but this could be really long or really short because it doesn't matter how many times I read this. I can't quite make sense of Leviticus 27. It's about vows and then tithes. So a man could make a vow to the Lord, dedicating himself or a member of his family. This pledge would entail service in the sanctuary. However, non-Levites could not serve on temple grounds, so a person may be freed from the service by making a payment to the sanctuary. So the temple wouldn't be built for hundreds of years. And the same rules would apply to the tabernacle, though. So probably the most famous example of a vow being made was Hannah, who said, I want to have a son so bad. If I can have a son, I will dedicate him to the Lord all the days of his life. And then that's what he did. Samuel was born and given to, I can't remember who. I should probably remember this. That's right, Eli, whose sons were kind of terrible. But that could have also been different because I think Hannah was a Levite, so he could serve in the temple. But that's one example of a vow being made, and that person serving God, serving the temple, serving in the tabernacle all the days of his life. But if they could not serve, then this is kind of what this chapter starts talking about, is evaluation for people. So your prime years are going to be the most expensive. 20 to 60 was 50 shekels of silver. Men, a female would be 30. 5 to 20, a male would be 20 shekels, female 10. A month old to 5 years old, the valuation man would be, a male would be 5, a female would be 3 shekels. If the person is 60 years old or over, the valuation would be 15 for a man, 10 for a woman. And if someone was too poor to not necessarily buy their independence or buy their freedom, but to buy out their service, then they would go before a priest, and the priest would value him according to what that person could afford. And then we move on to animals, because you could pay a vow with an animal. The vow is an animal that may be offered as an offering to God. All of it that he gives to the Lord is holy. He would not exchange it or make a substitute for it, good or for bad, bad for good. And if he does in fact substitute, then both it and the substitute are holy, and it will eventually be given to God. If for some reason you were going to give an unclean animal that may not be offered as an offering to Yahweh, then he shall stand the animal before the priest. The priest would make the valuation, and then you'd pay it. If he wishes to redeem it and keep that unclean animal, I don't know why you would. If you touch it, you're unclean. But if you could, you'd add a fifth, add 20%, and then you could keep it. And that could just be an animal that's unclean to be redeemed, like unclean to be sacrificed, and maybe not unclean overall. I'm not totally sure. If a man dedicates part of his land, then the valuation shall be in proportion to its seed. If he dedicates his field from the year of Jubilee, the valuation would stand for 50 years. If he dedicates to the field after the Jubilee, then the priest would calculate the price according to the years that remain, and a dedication would be made, or deduction would be made from that valuation. So if he dedicates a field and then wants to redeem it, just like before, add 20%, and then you could get it back. So if you're dedicating it to God, you just generally want to keep it, or otherwise you're paying an extra 20%. If he dedicates to Yahweh a field that he has bought, which wasn't part of his possession, so remember the year of Jubilee, it would go back to your familial ties. In the year of Jubilee, the field would return to him from whom it was bought. So you could buy a field and then dedicate that to God. If the person that you bought it from didn't redeem it, then I guess that's just saying that would go back to that person. The firstborn animal always belonged to God, so you you didn't get to give God a firstborn because all the firstborn belonged to God. That was that way since the Passover. Um, if it was an unclean animal, he shall buy it back at the valuation at a fifth, or if it's not redeemed, then it could be sold at the valuation. And this is one part I really don't get, because it could just be an English thing. No devoted thing that a man devotes to God, or anything that he has, whether man or beast, or of his inherited field, shall be sold or redeemed. Every devoted thing is most holy to God. No one devoted who is to be devoted for destruction from mankind shall be ransomed. He shall surely be put to death. Honestly, I don't know. They weren't supposed to sacrifice people. So I think what part of this is saying is, if you were going to the devoted thing belonged irreversibly to God and could not be ransomed. So an example of this was their war against the Canaanites. So the example that we're talking about is in Deuteronomy 2. And we captured all his cities at that time and devoted to destruction every city, men, women, and children. We left no survivors. So I think part of this was doing what God said and getting rid of the evil in the land. But they said, we're not going to take any slaves. We're not going to have any slaves from this. There's going to be no survivors. Furthermore, they only took livestock as spoil with the plunder of the cities that they captured. So this seems kind of weird, but you can devote people to destruction. When you're taking over a city, you don't take them as slaves. They just all get wiped out. And I don't really know what to think of that. So that's what I got. Now for tithing, every tithe of the land, whether seed, fruit, it is God's. It is holy to God. If a man wishes to redeem some of his tithe, then you're going to be adding a fifth to it. Maybe you need the seed, maybe you need the fruit more than you need the money, and you need to eat. Maybe that could be a reason why. I'm not really sure. Every tithe of the herds and flocks, every 10th animal of all that pass under the herdsman's staff shall be holy to God. One should not differentiate between the good or the bad, like the ones with the blemish that could be sacrificed or not. Neither shall he make a substitute. If he does, both the substitute and the original would be holy. So there was no good point in substituting them, because then you lost 2 instead of 1. Maybe you're just a really generous person. I'm not sure. But again, this happened at Mount Sinai. The people would be leaving very shortly to go to the Promised Land. So a lot of this stuff is being set up for what happens when they get into the land, once they're established, once they have the land. And then we know what happens. They say, no, we're not going to go in. So then it's 40 more years. So what was supposed to be happening in a few weeks was now 40 years away. So Leviticus is a hard book, but it's been fun. It's been good to go through it. If you've got any insight on any of this stuff and want to share it with me, I am all ears. I hope you guys have a good week, and we'll start on Numbers tomorrow. Have a good day.